Good afternoon. It's my pleasure to welcome you to my home county of Erie today to set the stage for our next president, Joe Biden. Thank you. My name is Julie Slomsky, and I'm honored to be the Democratic nominee running for state senate right here in Erie. Erie County is not only fired up and ready to elect Democrats up and down the ticket, but we're ready to be the bellwether to deliver the state of Pennsylvania for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. We're ready. Here in Erie, we know the value of hard work. We thrive in the snowiest of winters. We've weathered the decline of manufacturing, and we've not only survived, but we have the potential to thrive. Why is that? Because here in Erie, we're ready to build back better. You know, Joe Biden knows the importance of Erie County. That's why he's here today. And he knows that right here, we can't afford 4 more years of Donald Trump and Dan Laughlin. See, Joe Biden and I, we're in this fight for the same reasons. We want to level the playing field for working families to be able to succeed and ensure everyone has access to quality health care and education, and rebuild the middle class with good-paying union jobs. Thank you. It's that simple. It's leadership that looks out for everyone, not just the top 1%. And at times like these, we see firsthand why leadership matters. We are facing an unprecedented health crisis, and Republicans, my opponent included, they want to strip health care from families. I mean, COVID will be the next pre-existing condition, and yet even with 174,000 Pennsylvanians having contracted COVID, Trump and Republicans, they want to go back to a time where people could be charged or denied coverage for pre-existing conditions. We can't afford 4 more years of Trump. We can't afford 4 more years of Laughlin, and we can't afford 4 more years of this politics as usual. That's why I'm so excited to vote for Joe Biden this year. Joe being here today, it really shows that he's not taking a single vote in Pennsylvania for granted. And as president, he'll fight every single day for every single Pennsylvanian and make sure families get a fair shot. Joe has never forgotten where he's come from. His Pennsylvania roots have shaped his values and guided his career. They're the reason he's fought so hard for union workers and working families, and as a senator, and as a vice president. And they're the values he'll take with him to the White House when he serves as president for all Americans in every town, big and small. Like Joe, I will never forget where I came from either. I grew up right here on blue-collar family roots on the east side of town, a granddaughter of union members. Working families deserve leadership that is all about public service, not politics. When you send me to the state senate, and when you send Joe to the White House, we'll fight like hell every single day for Erie County. From Fairview to Northeast, from McCain to the city of Erie, you and we all here deserve a champion in Harrisburg and one in the president in the White House that will fight for us as well. Both of us will do the same, fighting for Erie County every single day. It is with the highest honor to be here today and be here with you as we elect and honor our next president, Joe Biden. He's the fighter that we need in the White House, and the only way we'll build Erie back better. Now, on November 3rd, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to flip the state senate and take back the White House. That path runs right through Erie. So let's show future President Biden what Erie's made of. Onward to victory. Thank you.
Please welcome a journey worker and recent graduate of the UA Local 27 Apprenticeship Program, Joel Hobson.
Good afternoon. My name is Joel. I'm a journeyman plumber and a recent UA Local 27 Apprenticeship graduate. After working in plumbing for 5 years, I decided to take the leap to further my career in the field and get involved with UA Local 27. My life has only improved ever since. 5 years later, I'm able to support my community every day while working with the union who supports me. My wife Stephanie and my 2 kids, Quinn, and Beckett. I get to feel the dignity that goes along with finishing a hard day's work. It matters when I tuck my kids in at night that they see that I'm proud of what I do. I don't know where I would be without Plumbers Local 27, but even though Plumbers Local 27 has been so helpful to me and my family, unions like mine are facing an uphill climb today. The Republicans, led by President Trump, have gone to war against unions. They have made every effort to weaken the voice of labor and given breaks to wealthy corporations and CEOs that don't need any help. If we elect Donald Trump, we will continue to face these kinds of attacks. That means the next person to face struggles like I was may not be able to lift themselves up by joining a union. When unions are threatened, the American middle class is threatened. Now more than ever, we need Joe Biden because he'll support unions and the apprenticeship programs they provide. That way, everyone, no matter if they went to college or not, can get a good paying job with benefits that can support their family. Out here in Erie County, we know that Joe gets us. He grew up on the other side of the state, but he grew up in a working class family just like mine. Joe knows that the middle class built this country and that we can build it back better. But to do that, we need a president who ensures that workers are treated with dignity and earn the pay, benefits, and workplace protection that they deserve. I'm excited to be here today with a man who believes in the dignity of work, who believes that a strong middle class is something worth fighting for. I hope that everyone who shares their beliefs will join me in voting for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris in the election this year. Thank you.
Please welcome a local soybean farmer, Rick Tellez.
Good afternoon. My name is Rick Tellez. I am a third-generation farmer right here in western Pennsylvania. Back in 2016, I voted for Donald Trump. On the campaign trail 4 years ago, he made tons of promises. Promises to the working man, to the middle class, and as he traveled around the country, he promised to bring back manufacturing jobs and to fix the economy, promote the use of ethanol for farmers. It did not take long for me to realize that President Trump was nothing more than a con man. He sold me and others on ideas that he was going to change things in Washington. You've heard it, drain the swamp, make America great for the working man. People like myself who felt ignored and underappreciated by our national leaders. One of the first things he did that had an impact on thousands of farmers like myself was the start of the trade war with China. It was a double whammy. The added cost of the inputs due to the tariffs, compounded with the effects of what China put on the commodity prices, what the press has known most of talked about soybeans. Those two have added up to sometimes as much as a 40% effect on my economy on the farm. You know, Trump referred to farmers as being true patriots. Well, he bought us off with huge subsidies, but his policies had already caused tremendous harm to the farming communities and farms across America. Well, it's because that I am a patriot that I'm loudly speaking out against Trump and his administration. When people ask me why I no longer support him, I tell them the list is too long. You know, the unnecessary trade issues were just the start and tip of the iceberg. The trade war, it affected every person in America, whether they knew it or not. His threats to the Affordable Care Act will impact millions. His push to eliminate payroll taxes, that's funding for Social Security, when people need that safety net the most. Now, don't even get me started on his total disregard for the Constitution, the values that held this country together for centuries. Some of you may have seen an ad in which I held President Trump totally accountable and negligent for how he informed the people and misinformed us about the pandemic. That ad was made 3 weeks prior to being aired. And when it was aired on the same day that Paul Woodruff's book came out and the release of the voice recordings from Trump saying he knew how serious this virus was in February and when choosing not to tell the American people. I felt so vindicated about making that ad when I heard that recording. This guy claims to be pro-life, but his negligence helped to lead more than 210,000 people to an early death from the coronavirus. He put hundreds of thousands of lives at risk for nothing more than the pure profits of Wall Street. Donald Trump, he is not pro-life. He is pure pro-profit, always has been. Our lives and wellness have always been like nothing more than a game to him. And we deserve so much more out of a commander-in-chief. So why am I supporting and speaking out in favor of Vice President Joe Biden? It's pretty simple. When I listen to Joe, I think of my kids and my grandkids. I think of the future I want for them, the America I want them to inherit. I know that when Joe Biden becomes president, he'll work hard to build a country that works for everybody. He'll make sure that the communities have opportunities to succeed and set the next generation up with the tools and resources they'll need to thrive. He'll be a leader we can trust and believe. One who will fight for our children like as if they were his own. And that is why I am honored and proud to introduce the next President of the United States, Joe Biden.
Hello, 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 hello. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It's good to be back in Erie. I want to say hello to all of Erie, but mainly Mr. Mayor, City Council President Horton, and all local elected leaders who are joining us here today, and to your next Senator Julie. We need to turn out and support for Democrats down the line here in Pennsylvania to win back that Pennsylvania State Senate. Folks, look, I want to thank you, President McManus, for coming out. You've been a good friend a long time. And for everyone at the UA for hosting this incredible training facility. And, you know, I'm so grateful to have earned UA's endorsement. You have over 355 proud plumbers, pipe fitters, and more behind me than I can possibly thank you for. I also want to thank Rick for sharing his story with us today. You know, and for being part of a conversation this year where he shared his story with America. And Rick, Delaware is thought of being a great corporate entity and chemical facilities and all those things, but we have a $4 billion, as you probably will know, agricultural industry in the Delmarva Peninsula. It's a big deal, and a lot of farmers are being hurt really badly, really badly. Farmers all across the country have been gutted by the president's broken promises and reckless trade war. But our farmers, just like our union members and anyone who actually does an honest day's work, see him and his promises for what they are. Rick, I want to thank you, and I think you put it best in the op-ed you wrote last year. You said, it's a bunch of hot air and cold wind. Folks, this is it. The election's here. The choice couldn't be more stark. The stakes couldn't be higher. So many Pennsylvanians are facing hard times right now. After my debate in Cleveland last week, I took a train, which I've ridden a lot, an Amtrak train, from northeastern Ohio into Pittsburgh and Greensburg, Latrobe, and Johnstown. And I heard the same stories everywhere I've been hearing all around the country. You're trying your best, but it never feels like enough. You're not looking for a handout, you're just looking for a fair shot. That's how my dad felt when we had to leave Scranton after there was no work when Cole died. He was in sales. He wasn't a guy who was in the coal mines, although my great-grandfather was they tell me, the first Irish Catholic state senator ever elected in the state of Pennsylvania, and he was a mining engineer. But I remember him saying he made that walk, which a lot of you know here in Erie. I call it the longest walk any parent has to make, up a short flight of stairs to tell his kids, we can't play in that ball, can't play in Green Range Little League anymore. You can't go to St. Paul's. You got to leave. Dad doesn't have a job. I'm going to have to leave. I remember him taking me home, us home, my mom and 3 children at the time, home to my grandpops. And I took how much pride it must have cost him to ask my grandfather, will you take care of Gene and the kids? I'll be back. And he started commuting every weekend, 157 miles down to Delaware, where he had grown up. We ended up in a steel town called Claymont, Delaware. Then we went to Wilmington. My dad got a sales job, and he worked hard. It took about 4 years to build a decent middle-class life and be able to buy a home. But it wasn't easy for him. But he had an expression. He said, Joey, I don't expect the government to solve my problems, but I at least expect them to understand my problems. America deserves a president who understands what people are going through. You're facing real challenges right now, and the last thing you need is a president who exacerbates them. More than 210,000 are dead, as was pointed out. We lose anywhere from 700 to 1,000 people a day dead. The president was told a little while ago, when he was told 100,000 people a day were dying, you know what he said? He says, it is what it is. Well, it is what it is because he is who he is. More than 7.5 million Americans have been infected and counting. 175 cases, 75,000 cases right here in Pennsylvania. My heart goes out to all those families who, like when any of us have lost a child, look at that empty chair and dining room table tonight where somebody you love used to sit. My heart goes out to everyone struggling in this economic crisis. Simple neglect on the part of this administration. Nearly 11 million jobs lost since the beginning of this crisis and still have not come back. Temporary layoffs have turned into permanent layoffs. We're still down 674,000 manufacturing jobs nationwide since the crisis started, and more than 40,000 manufacturing jobs here in Pennsylvania. The Trump presidency will be the first presidency since Hoover that is going to end up leaving office with fewer jobs than when he came into office, since Hoover. The President Trump is leaving. He talks about this V recovery. We went down real quick. We're coming up quick. Well, that's what you call a K-shaped recovery. Those folks on the top of the K are doing very, very well. The recession at the top, those folks, everything's going up for them. But everybody in the middle and below is going down, seeing things get worse. It means essential workers who sacrificed to keep us going through this pandemic are being left behind by the most unequal recovery in American history. And it means while the top, this is a fact which is startling to me when I found it out, the top 100 billionaires in the middle of this pandemic, they made $300 billion additional dollars. Hear me now? 100 individuals made $300 billion this year. And what did the bottom half get? They got the K. They got the slide down. Because the fact is the president can only see the world from Park Avenue. I see it from Scranton. I see it from Claymont, for real. You all know what I'm talking about. You all see it from Erie. That's why my program to Build Back Better is focused on working people. Think about it. Think about all the people you know who got up this morning and had the following conversation. You know, honey, I know we need 4 new tires. They're bald, but we can't do it now. We got to wait. You got to wait. Or you know what? I know we just lost our insurance, but we're gonna be okay. We're gonna hang in there. Or, you know, having to make a choice, literally a choice, between getting the prescription or putting food on the table. If I said that 10 years ago, you'd look at me like I was writing a fiction story. But that's the truth. They're the decisions people are making today, right now. Independent analysis put out by a highly respected Wall Street firm of all things, Moody's, from a Wall Street firm, projects that my Build Back Better plan is going to create 18.6 million jobs in 4 years. That's hard and now. That's not a liberal think tank. That's Moody's. And it's going to create 7 million more jobs than the president's economic plan. And $1 trillion more in economic growth than the president's plan. And here's how it works. I'm going to raise taxes. I'm not going to raise taxes on anybody making less than 400 grand. But, you won't pay a penny more. But, those making more than that, I'm going to ask them to finally begin to pay the fair share. I'm going to ask the big corporations and the wealthy to begin to pay. 91 of the Fortune 500 companies today pay zero tax. You hear me? Zero tax. How many of you pay zero tax? And billionaires are paying at a tax rate, because it's all investment money, they're paying at a lower tax rate than you pay if you have a job as a plumber. How can that be? So I'm going to raise, the money I'm going to raise, we're going to allow us to invest in working people and grow the middle class back and make sure everyone comes along this time. My plan is about making the kinds of investments that are going to stimulate economic growth, to get it back to full employment fast and help us build back better than before. We're going to create millions of good-paying union jobs. I had the honor of being the guy in charge of the Recovery Act when the Great Recession occurred. The president turned to me. He used to love doing it at State of the Union messages. He'd never tell me what he was going to do. And he turns and says, and Joe, Sheriff Joe's going to take care of that $800 billion. Well, we got it done, less than 0.2% waste or fraud, and we built back the longest expansion in American history. Manufacturing and technology, making sure we're going to make the future made in America. And infrastructure, building airports, schools, affordable housing, upgrading the water and pipes, making sure it's sustainable and resilient, built and laid down by union plumbers and pipe fitters here in Pennsylvania and across the country. And clean energy, we're going to upgrade 4 million buildings with weatherization of 2 million homes. And it's estimated that will create 1 million good-paying jobs, union jobs. Union jobs will be filled by men and women like in this local here. Look, folks, we're in a situation now where, if you take a look at this Build Back Better, I'm going to take a second, but I hope I don't take too many seconds before it rains here. Number one, we were talking about it, Mr. President, a little while ago. He promised an infrastructure plan in 2016, 17, 18, 19. He didn't do a damn thing, not one single bit. He promised to relieve Main Street slammed by the recession. But guess where that money went that the Congress passed? It went into the Mar-a-Lago crowd, the wealthy. I'm not joking. It didn't go to small businesses. It didn't go to the people who needed it. My plan to revitalize American manufacturing infrastructure says we're going to use Buy American rules. It's supposed to be only buying American now. Well, I'm going to invest $2 trillion in infrastructure and clean energy. We're going to raise over $3.7 trillion by eliminating that tax cut for the super wealthy. And folks, we're going to fix water pipelines, replace lead pipes, upgrade treatment plants. We're going to construct 1.5 million new affordable housing units. We're going to build $100 billion rebuilding our schools. We're going to retrofit, which we started in our administration, 4 million buildings, including advanced heating and cooling system. There's going to be such a race to job creation for unions that you're not going to believe it. And I really mean this. And by the way, when I did the Recovery Act, which was $800 billion, not one, we had the largest infrastructure project short of Eisenhower's interstate highway program. Since that, not one single solitary dollar went to anything other than a prevailing wage. Had to be a prevailing wage. And look, I'm also going to make sure that corporate America, being so kind, wanting to take over registered apprenticeships. You know what that's all about. You guys spend $250 million a year making sure that you have apprenticeships that are the best trained people in the world. Well, folks, I'm also going to pass the PRO Act. They're spending over $2 billion a year trying to keep you from being able to organize around the country. That's a promise. And also strengthen labor standards, especially OSHA rules. There's a lot we can do, but it's not enough to praise workers. We got to make sure they get benefited. Folks, look, my dad had another expression. After he lost his job and we moved to Delaware, he'd say, you know, He said, Joey, a job's about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your kid in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay. You know, the fact is that every time the word climate change comes up, Donald Trump thinks hoax. Every time it comes up, I think jobs. Let me be clear. No matter how many lies he tells, I am not banning fracking, period. We'll also increase incomes. We're going to see the burden and the cost. We're going to increase, we're going to make sure, not prevailing wage, we can't mandate that. You guys, by the way, I said inside, the other expression my dad had was, there's only one way to deal with the abuse of power, which corporate America is exercising now. It's with power. And the only power we have is union power. You're the guys that keep the barbarians on the other side of the gate from taking everything. And that's a fact. So look, I'll try to move along quickly here. The fact is that we need to ease the burden on the major costs in your life. What's the average middle-class person fear most? They're trying to tear down the Affordable Care Act. We're going to build on it, adding a new health insurance option, a not-for-profit public option, which is going to give private insurers real competition. We're going to increase the subsidies so premiums are lower and we can afford plans with lower deductibles and lower out-of-pocket expenses, because we're going to be able to do that with the money we take back from the super wealthy. We're going to take on the pharmaceutical companies with a plan that slashes the cost of prescription drugs by 60%. Look, folks, we're going to work with states to ensure that every 3-, 4-, and 5-year-olds has access to free, high-quality preschool, not daycare. You send them to preschool, there's evidence that 58% of them will go all the way through, no matter what their background, no matter what poor neighborhood they come from. You start them at age 3, they have a 58% better chance of graduating all the way through high school and beyond. We're going to make sure that low and middle income families will never have to spend more than 7% of their income caring for their young. What's the talk to the women around here. I was a single dad for 5 years. I couldn't afford help. Thank God I had my mom and my sister and my brother to help me with my kids when my wife and daughter were killed. We're going to make 4-year public college and universities tuition-free for families making less than $125,000 a year. And when Erie gets its first new community college to open in Pennsylvania in 27 years, we're going to make sure that it's free for anyone who qualifies to get in. That's a fact. And by the way, that costs a lot of money. It costs $6 billion a year. That's about as much as we give a tax deduction for racehorses. I mean, we got to have priorities. If you're buying your first home, look at all the people who've gotten out of school since the 9/11 generation. Whether they got out of high school without a graduation, whether they got out of college, no graduations, whether they thought they had these good jobs waiting for them, but they all got shut down in the Great Recession and now. And what are they doing? They're unable to make that first home down payment. They're out there busting their neck, and a lot of them are college graduates, some of them are beyond that, some of their graduate degrees, and no jobs or no access. Well, I'm going to make sure you get a tax credit for up to $15,000 for your first-time home buyer, period. That's going to provide your down payment. We're going to protect Social Security, increase benefits for millions of seniors so you can retire with dignity and some respect. Folks, look, but if we're going to get anything done, we've got to come together. We're going to have to vote like we've never voted before. Early voting is open here in Pennsylvania, so go vote if you can. And go to the iwillvote.com/PA to find out when and where you can vote early. And if you requested a mail-in ballot, return it as soon as possible. Make sure you seal it first in the secrecy envelope, and then sign the declaration on the outside of the envelope before you return it. As I said earlier this week, on the sacred grounds of Gettysburg battlefield, I'm running as a proud Democrat, but I'm going to govern as an American president. I'm going to work as hard for those who don't support me as those who do. And I'm so proud in this campaign to have earned the support of so many proud and patriotic Republicans, including Pennsylvania's former Governor and Secretary of Homeland Security, Tom Ridge. I want to thank him publicly for his endorsement. We may not agree on everything. We agree on this. This is a moment to put country above party. Because after all this country's been through, after all that America has accomplished, after all the years we've stood as the beacon for the rest of the world, it cannot be that here, in the year 2020, we'll allow the government of the people, by the people, and for the people to perish on this earth, as Lincoln said. We can do better. We can do better than what we've seen. We can be what we are at our best, the United States of America. All this division being pushed by this president. All this stuff about encouraging. Here, in the debate we had, I asked him to condemn the Proud Boys. He said, stand back and stand down, but stand ready. What's going on here? This is not who we are. This is not who we are as a country, for real. We can argue like hell, but end of the day, we come together. I am more optimistic about America's chances today than ever been. Why? Because I think the blinders have been taken off. People have realized what's really at stake here. I think we can pull this together. I'm optimistic. I really, genuinely am. But here's the deal, guys. We've got to go out and make sure you vote, because the only way we lose this is by the chicanery going on relative to polling places. This whole idea, not a single solitary reasonable person in either party has said mail-in ballots are corrupt. No evidence, but he's trying to make it sound that way. Trying to put people in polling places. The same guys you saw standing, blocking people's way in Virginia with banners and rifles slung across their shoulders. Folks, it's not who we are. We're so much better than this. So I say to you all, God bless you all. Let's go out and vote, and may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you. Where am I going? I'm going this way. Thanks, everybody. See you, pal. Thanks a million. Thank you.